I'm going to explain this so simply. Even this dude will be able to understand it.
The revolution will not be televised, and be no rerun, brothers and sisters. The revolution will be live.
Can you dig it? Can you dig it?
What is up, all you Stone Cold Superfly fans, Funkadelics out there? You are watching Aqua Funk Aquatics with me, Aqua Funk. But before we get started, I got 3 questions to ask you. Now, these questions are very important to this video, so answer them in the comments below. But I will be answering them at the end of the video. So, question numero uno. It's more of a scenario. Okay? A man is found dead in his bed. The entire house had caught fire earlier that night. The only thing is, his bed was completely untouched by the flames. Him and the bed were completely untouched by the flames. Now, why do you think the man was dead, but there was no damage, burn damage, to him or the bed? A, did he drown? B, did he have a dream that he was falling off of a cliff and just didn't wake up and actually hit the ground? C, did he suffocate? D, was the man 123 years old, just came home from the club and decided he can't take it no more and this is a good place to go? Alright, second question is another question that has to do with this video. Back in the day, prehistoric era, I don't remember exactly which auric was it, prehistoric, prehistoric, whatever. There were insects that grew as big as dogs and centipedes that grew as large as humans. Why do you think that is? Third question is a true or false question. Can you give your fish too much oxygen in the aquarium? Alright, so now that we got those questions out of the way, remember, I'll be answering them at the end of the video. Let's get into what this video is about. This video is about supercharging your fish. And if any of you guys out there are motorheads, you know superchargers ain't nothing but an injection of oxygen. Boom, gets that cylinder and pistons just booming. Well, you can do the same thing for your fish. You can do the same thing for yourself. Let's start out with the gills. And mind you, I'm making this video really dumbed down. Now, I'm not saying you are dumb. I need stuff dumbed down for me all the time. Like taxes, what exactly is up with gluten, the birds and the bees, and what exactly the electoral college bathroom. So your fish may be completely happy, alright, healthy and happy with the filter that you have when you got the tank set up. But let's talk about oxygen, the things that we all need to breathe. And let's talk about specifically the fish's body and how does the oxygen get from the air to the water to the fish's body. And that is through gills. We have lungs, they have gills. Their gills are made up of a whole bunch of tiny filaments to increase the surface area. Because there's about, like, I think it was like 80. Now, I'm not an oxygenologist, so don't quote me on these percentages. I'm just giving rough estimates from all the blah, blah, that I heard in the past. It's like 80-85% of our atmosphere is oxygen that we breathe in. Plenty. We don't even use a little bit of that. And I believe the oxygen in water is about 25% or something. Like I said, I'm not an oxygenarian, so don't quote me on those things. So how do these fish get that itty bitty amount of oxygen out of water? Now a lot of you guys are saying, well, Funk, you big dodo. Oxygen, water is made up of hydrogen and oxygen. Yeah, but that oxygen, chemical or compound or molecule is connected to the nitrogen, so it's tied to that. It can't be separated, so it needs free oxygen that gets into the water. Goes through the gills, gets disseminated. That oxygen gets disseminated from the gills to the red blood cells and to all the major organs. Now, just like humans, the more oxygen we have, the better health we have. The more we can compete athletically. athletes, boxers to be exact, will go to higher altitudes where there's a less oxygen content to train, just so that their body can get used to working normally under low oxygen conditions, so that when they come down to ground level or sea level, their lungs that are normally taking in a small amount of oxygen but still performing at a high level will perform even higher because they have more oxygen, because their lungs can take more of it in. Same thing for fish. The fish get more oxygen, they're more lively, they're more healthy. Excuse me, I'm still sick. So, how do we get oxygen into your tank? Well, there's a couple of ways to get oxygen into your aquarium. One is that filter that you bought with the tank is splashing when it pours water back into the tank. That's creating surface tension, which moves the top of the water. Now, by far, this is the best way to promote oxygen being in the aquarium, is surface tension. It's not the only way, but right now we're going to go the best way. It's the best way. But to be honest with you, that surface tension, like you see here, is not that much from the filter. So what you want to do is you want to put in an extra agitating mechanism, like an air stone. Now I'm using a biofilter right here, just because if I'm going to have air in the water, it's going to do two jobs, which is have surface agitation and filtration, which I'll get into in another video. But this is a really, really good, cheap way to promote oxygen in your aquarium. Now, you see them bubbles. Fish don't breathe those big old bubbles because their body is not designed to breathe straight air. That is why fish cannot live out of water. They need a mechanism to get the air to their gills, which is water. So, fish could actually suffocate outside of the water because they don't have the oxygen transportation, which is water, that they need. Their body is designed to get oxygen from water, not from air. So fish can suffocate with air. Okay, so your filter produces some surface tension, but I would always suggest getting a sponge filter. One, because it's an extra filter. Two, because of the gyration that it produces. Now, that surface tension allows air to trickle down into the water. Now, the majority of the air is up top, but it will trickle down slowly. Alright? So what you want to do is have as much surface area as possible. For instance, let's talk about a 55-gallon tank and a 50 low boy. A 55-gallon tank is tall, long, but it's pretty narrow, long front to back. A 50 low boy is shorter, but it has a lot of surface area. The more surface area you have, the more potential for surface agitation. So short and wide tanks are actually the best tanks to have, because it produces a lot of surface area and you can, get hopping for the oxygen. Alright, another way that you can put oxygen in your aquarium is through plants, heavily planted tanks. Plants release oxygen, and the fish can actually live there. You can actually have an aquarium with absolutely no filtration whatsoever. I'm going to show you this right here. Bang. Absolutely no filtration or air aeration at all, and have the fish thrive in there. For instance, these fish right here, I put a filter in there, but they have been living in there for months with no... I actually forgot about them. I ain't gonna lie to you, I forgot about them. I'm terrible. It's Sunday. I'm going to have to absolve myself, sofrito coquito, que te jode poquito, of that sin that I did. But because I had all this guppy grass in there, it was producing a lot of oxygen. Now, one of the downfalls with this type of aeration is the looks, but that's the only downfall I see. One of the downfalls of filtration is there's another plug. You know, you have to put, if you put another filter in there, you have to put more, or maybe you have to buy a bigger filter, and it makes a noise like Niagara Falls, no lie. One of the downfalls to plants is at night they stop producing oxygen. They only produce oxygen with light. In fact, I actually heard where at night the plants actually consume oxygen. So do some research on that planted, oxygenated, no filter, no aeration tank thingy. I'm not going to speak any more about that because I don't want somebody doing it saying, I'm going to do it, and they suffocate the tanks. Another way is a thing I heard called oxygen injection. That's where somehow they inject oxygen molecules into the water. But the biggest downfall I heard from that, I've never seen this before, I've just read about it, is that because it's such tiny amounts and it forces oxygen into your tank, into your fish at such a heavy rate, and they can actually get gas, air bubbles in them and die. So that's that. All these ways, all these things you can do to get oxygen in the water, which is very important. Let's talk about temperature. Okay, temperature. When your aquarium is hot, which a lot of people in South America, you heard that the hotter the aquarium is, the faster they grow, the more lively they are because they're cold-blooded. Yes, that is true. But you have to throw in way more oxygen when you heat up the tank, because hot aquariums do not hold oxygen well. In fact, they don't even really allow it. Let me explain. Hot aquariums, the water molecules in hot aquariums move so fast that it doesn't allow air molecules to pass through it, right? They're moving fast. Now, on the flip side, a cold aquarium where the molecules are moving slower, the oxygen has time to pass through. But nobody wants a cold aquarium. So if you're going to heat up your aquarium, make sure you take into consideration the oxygenation of that aquarium. You have to blast it with some oxygen, because as the taller the tank is, oxygen levels drop going down to the bottom. That's why a short aquarium does way better for oxygenation. The oxygenation, gets less and less and less the further down it goes. Ammonia. Now, this might be a touchy subject for some people, because here's the thing: ammonia is toxic to fish. But in most cases, in my opinion, when you get a bag of fish from the mail, ammonia isn't the reason why you have a bag of dead fish. The reason why you have a bag of dead fish is because the ammonia in the water did not allow oxygen to pass through. So they actually suffocated. Okay? They actually suffocated. They didn't die of poison. They died of suffocation because the ammonia blocked the oxygen going through. I don't know. I'm sure somebody out there has a different opinion on that, but that's my opinion. So back to my questions that I had earlier that I hope you wrote down. 1. Why do you think the man died in that bed when he wasn't touched by the flames at all? He died of suffocation. C. It's always C. Come on now. If he died of drowning, how did he drown in a fire? If he died from the falling in his dreams, I don't even know if that even happened. If he died of being 102 years old and he came home from the club, well, good on him. You know what I mean? 102 years old, he's still at the club. It was a good time to go. Died of suffocation. The fire ate up all the oxygen in the room. He died of suffocation. Second question. The insects that grew up to giant sizes, why was that a thing in the prehistoric era? The reason why is because in the prehistoric era trees were bigger. There was a higher oxygen content, and the bugs, the way their body was created, they could take this oxygen in at a rate that actually increased their size. So these bugs got bigger. And the last question is, can you give your fish too much oxygen in an aquarium? And the answer is, I don't know. I do know if you put too much oxygen in the aquarium using a filtration or aeration, you're also causing the water to have a lot more movement, and for some fish that could be very stressful and they could die from that movement. As far as a fish dying from oxygenation, I guess you would have to have a high-powered industrial air pump just blowing huge bubbles in there. But then again, I don't think it's the oxygen that killed them. I think it was the stress of being knocked around all the time. Anyway, like I was saying, oxygen is a good thing any way you look at it. It makes your fish healthier, grow bigger, grow faster, be more livelier. So if you want to have success in your aquarium, add oxygen.